Hello, hello, hello. This is Tooth Be Told, Dr. Kyle Dumpert.
Dr. Walter Aka, what is going on? As you can see, it's just us today. We kind of wanted to, so everybody's graduating, right, Kyle?
Right,
And
right.
so we thought to ourselves, what can we do to help out the graduating class? So we're gonna actually just do a breakdown of our experiences when it came to finding jobs, residencies, where to work, how to work, questions to ask, how to value yourself, because I feel like evaluations are very skewed, right, towards
Right.
the corporation or the office. So you got to kind of know what kind of value you're going to be able to bring into the office so you can ask for the proper amount. And just an honesty, like how much people are actually getting paid. I feel like
And
a lot of people are skewed by the number, thinking, oh, well, general dentists make over 150. Most associates coming out don't make 150.
no, no.
You see,
And
and so yeah,
it's an even harder year with, coming out of COVID and shutdowns, what kind of skills you have, what kind of, requirements you had coming out of dental school. How is that going to affect you in real world dentistry?
right. And just like when I graduated in '09, dentists aren't retiring now
No.
because of what happened last year and the year before. Like
Right.
they're like, oh my God, I saw this happen with my retirement. I took on more debt. I had to do this. I had to do that. I mean, despite everything, I will say that the government kind of helped with the PPP loan, but that still didn't mean that people weren't shutting their doors. It
Right.
still didn't mean that people weren't going through a lot of headaches. So people are not retiring like they used to. So
Or the
let's talk
people
about
that
that.
couldn't make it through, or they were
Right.
at a point where they could retire. A lot
Yep.
of them just ended up shutting their doors because they
Yep.
said, look, I don't want to deal with this. They didn't really have anybody coming out of school, so it was a good opportunity to shut the office down, go to retirement, and that's one less practice for you to work at.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think people have to understand that the growth of corporate dentistry is real,
Right.
and they're changing. Like Heartland, for example, you'll never know it's Heartland, right? You
Right.
just see it as a dental office because they're basically trying to give you that vibe of, private practice, standalone. But in
Right.
actuality, there's a bigger entity behind it. So,
Right.
all
Right.
these things we should talk about. So, let's talk. Let's start, Kyle. So okay, I'm gonna be the official graduate. Okay, I'm the
Okay.
official
Okay.
graduate. I know. Actually, hell, no, you're the official graduate. You're younger than I am. Yeah, you're
Okay.
younger than I am. You're the official graduate. So, Dr. Kyle, congratulations! You graduated from the University of Pittsburgh. You're excited. What are you gonna do next?
Well, first thing I'm looking at is that student loan payment because
Right.
it's hanging over our heads at what it $300,000-$400,000 or more.
Yep.
So coming out of dental school, everybody's thinking, all right, I'm a doctor now. It's time to make some money.
Mhm.
So the options are if you didn't sign up for a residency and you're going straight out into private practice, it's either private practice, corporate, maybe your parents are dentists and you're going home to work at the family practice.
Right.
Those are
You have
some
clinics. You have
clinics.
nonprofit clinics,
Right,
right? You
right,
have Indian reservations. You can work on
right.
there. There's so many different ways, man.
There's
Oh,
military, but that's not
military.
something you sign in or sign up for last minute. Uh,
Well, you could. You could
yeah,
actually.
yeah,
You could, and you can get a sign-in bonus. I don't know what it is, but you can definitely get a sign-in bonus. And I think we should talk about the pros and the cons to that as well,
right,
right? So you get a sign-in bonus, but you're probably going to be making a little bit less.
right,
You see, and
right,
then they also can help you with your student loans, but that's actually harder to negotiate that after after dental school versus before dental school,
right. So
right?
I guess the options are when you come out is private practice where you pretty much whatever you're producing is what you're going to make. So you're in control of your salary. A lot of there are
Wait,
private practice. Yeah.
wait a minute, wait a minute. Are we talking about owning your own practice, or are we talking
No,
about
no,
being an
no.
associate?
Being an associate. So
Okay, but
as
there's
an
still a percentage.
right. So you get a percentage of whatever you're doing. So if only want to do a couple of one crown and a bunch of fillings a day versus if you are able to pack your schedule full, the more you do, the more you make. You have a little bit more control per se over how much money that you can make.
Okay, well, let's break that down though. There's getting paid on collection and
Right.
production.
Right.
Most likely, everybody's getting paid on collection, correct?
Correct.
It's hard to get paid on production, meaning I did something, I get paid exactly that,
Right.
right? Because that's
So,
not beneficial for the office.
right. So when you come out of dental school, there is, depending on what kind of office you are, there's going to be insurance write-offs. So if you're doing, say, $1,000 crown, you think, oh, cool, I'm going to get 35% of that $1,000. Not if you're with insurance. Insurance will knock it down to maybe $600. Then you're getting your 35% of that. If the office is able to collect the insurance portion and the patient portion. So that's one of the things that new grads should be asking offices that they're interviewing is, what's your collection rate? And a lot of dentists will say, oh, I'm at 98, 99%. Say, no, I want to see, show me a report. What is your actual collection rate? What gets written off? And whose decision is it to write it off? So,
Okay, well, so you're graduating. You come
right,
into my office. You want to work in my office.
right.
Would I feel some kind of way if you're sitting here saying, "Hey, I want to see your books," because that's in actuality, that's what you're asking, right? For you to see my books,
Right, right. And if you're going into a practice that doesn't want to share that kind of information with you, I think that might be a little bit of a red flag. I mean, it's one thing, sign a non-disclosure agreement. I'm not going to be sharing your information with anybody else. I just need to know this before I sign a contract with you. But if you're going into an office that they only collect 80%, then you're doing a lot of work. You're doing 20% of your work for free because they're never collecting on it. So that's something you should know. The other
what
thing,
actually prevents offices from collecting 100%?
bad financial policies,
Break that
bad.
down.
So if you don't have a good insurance team that is following up on insurance claims, if you don't spell out if you're not collecting the patient portion that day, once it gets over 60 days or 90 days, that money, if it hasn't been collected already, it's pretty much gone. There's a very low chance that you're going to get that money. So, and then if you don't have those clear financial policies set out, say you tell the patient, hey, look, you need a crown. Patient says, great. If that's what you recommend, I'll do it. And as a new dentist, you're excited. You do the crown. They go up front and they say, the front desk tells them, okay, your portion's going to be $400. The patient says, whoa, nobody ever told me how much it was going to be. So then it becomes, whose decision is it to handle that? If it's the owner, do they want to keep that patient there and keep them happy? So they say, well, we'll write off, 15, 20%. That's our fault. We should have been more clear. Or is that decision up to the associate? So who's making the decision to make write-offs whenever that needs to happen? And
so who honestly makes that decision? Let's be real.
The owner.
Yeah, the owner. It's not the associate. So I think
Right.
associates shouldn't come in thinking that they have a lot of power, especially in an office that you don't have ownership stake in.
Right. So, and that's something, I'm not saying you can negotiate that. I'm just saying it should be spelled out up front. So there's no misunderstandings between the owner dentist and the associate coming in. Other things to ask for is, if you are joining a private practice, what is the patient load? What does the schedule look like? How much does the owner dentist actually want to work? Is it a one dentist practice that they're trying to build into a two dentist practice? So that means that slice of pie is going to have to be cut into two different for each of you. And if the owner doc isn't willing to step back and say, let's feed the new associate dentist, I'm willing to step back, not work as much because I want to, they got the student loans, they got everything. I'll feed their schedule and then, I'll make up the difference. Or are you going into a practice where that dentist still needs to produce a certain amount and you might not be busy being the associate dentist coming in.
And here's another thing that people don't ever look at is the reason why you're coming into that office, the reason why the owner doctor wants you in that office, right?
Right.
It could be because they want to go do something bigger, like, implant course, and they want to do like full mouth restorations, and so they want to do like more the aesthetic stuff. So if a patient
Mm-hmm.
comes in and you talk to the patient as an associate, and the patient says, yeah, you know what, I want to get 7 of my teeth crowned, they
Mm-hmm.
may take that from you.
Right.
They may take that from you and say, oh, well, you don't have the experience for that.
Right.
So that's something that you got to kind of figure out, right? Are they just there so that you can basically feed their new venture that they want to get
Right.
in? You know
Yep.
what I
They're
mean? So
going
that's another
to,
discussion.
are they going to take all those high dollar items from you and
Right.
just
High
leave you
dollar.
with a couple of little fillings here and there that you won't be able to make the kind of money that you want to make?
Right.
How are new patients handled? Do they still
Yes.
go to the owner doc? Do they go to the associate doc? All of these things need to be spelled out so you don't sign a contract and then all of a sudden you're like, shoot, I didn't know that all the new patients are still going to go to the new doc or the owner doc. I didn't know that I wasn't going to be doing any implants or crowns. I didn't know any of this stuff.
Right.
And
Right.
that creates a bad environment for everybody.
And don't forget, a lot of people forget this too, but emergency patients are sometimes your biggest gem.
Yeah.
You right? So if you're like sitting there and you're going, oh, I don't want to take any emergencies, that might be that patient that needs a root canal, a crown.
Right.
So they want to be out of pain, and they're like, you know what? Let me just do everything today. So
Right.
you might go in with an emergency patient and come out with like $2,000 or $3,000 worth of production all in that
Mm-hmm.
day, and that
Right.
can make your whole day. You
Absolutely.
see, so as an associate, I think you have to be willing to just say, I'll see the emergency. Sometimes more seasoned doctors don't want to deal with the emergency patients. So that might be something you can negotiate and say, hey, I'll see all the emergencies because I'm not doing much, right? I'm going to be a little slower or whatever it may be. What do you
Right.
think, Kyle?
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes, I think, goes back to what your experience is coming out of dental school, because you might feel like you're ready to take on the world, ready to start working. But let's be honest, you really don't know dentistry. Textbook dentistry
Right.
and ideal dentistry, but
Right.
it's really when it takes 3 hours to do a couple of occlusal fillings in dental school, you're not going to make much money there. So if you're looking for a practice, another thing you have to look at is, do I want to find a mentor that's going to teach me?
Okay.
And what is the trade-off there?
Right.
If I go work for a corporate office and I get a guaranteed salary no matter what I do, versus do I want to make less that first year or two, but if I find a really good dentist that is able to teach me above and beyond what I would learn being on my own, working at a corporate office by myself,
Right.
that knowledge that you're going to get that year out kind of serves as your residency. And although you're not making as much money, you're working one-on-one with somebody that can teach you the skills that can give you access to more profitable procedures for the next 30 years.
Okay. Let's talk about the percentage situation, because up north, I believe that percentage is really what, 30 to 35%, right?
Yeah, for private practice.
In Texas, I'm hearing as low as 22 to 30%.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yes. I'm hearing like 22, 25, 27, 30.
Okay.
Right? I haven't heard anybody going over 30.
Okay.
So remember, no matter where you go, you got to kind of look to see what's the average, what's the
Right.
normal. Am I getting screwed over because this office is like, oh, I'm going to give them less,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or am I getting actually above asking compared to other associates?
Right.
Right. So the first thing you got to find out, are you going to get paid on collection versus production? And then
Right.
the second is, can you negotiate your percentage?
Right.
And the only way I know to negotiate percentage is to come in with something that the office does not do, or to make yourself more valuable.
Right.
Right. I do implants. Oh, okay. I do molar endos. Oh, I do sleep apnea. Oh, I do Invisalign. You see, all
Right.
those things are something that you could add on and say, this is why I deserve to get paid a higher percentage.
Right.
But if you come right out of dental school and you say, I do a mean class 2 composite, you know, like, they're going to be like, okay, that's nice. You are not getting a higher percentage. I don't care how mean your composite looks, you know. So
Yep. Yep.
that's right. That's another discussion to have with somebody and say, what is your true value as an associate, and what are you actually bringing into the office that's going to benefit the office?
Right. Another thing that comes back to percentage of what you're making. Is it a fee for service office where you charge out $1,000, you expected to get $1,000? Or for those who don't know anything about insurance, when you sign up for insurance, you agree to accept a lower fee schedule. So instead of that $1,000 crown, you're getting 600. But the office down the street, they might have a different contract with that same insurance company where they might get $700 for that crown, where the office you're looking at only gets 600. And
Right.
we're really
How many
not
insurance companies do they take?
right, because each insurance company is going to have a different fee schedule, a different payment amount. And that's not really something dentists are allowed to discuss with each other, is how much are you getting from this insurance company?
Right.
This is what I'm getting, because the insurance company set up laws against that, that prevent us from doing that. So if you're getting 30% at one office, 35% at another office, you really don't know what you're getting 30 or 35% of, because
Right.
unless you see what these fee schedules are, it might
Right.
be, a Medicare, Medicaid office that, you're getting 20% of what the office fee schedule is. And, those are all questions that you have to ask during your interviews, or figure out what kind of practice you want to go into.
And don't forget, so we got HMO, we got PPO, we got fee for service, right?
Right.
Different types of insurances. Fee for service, I believe, is kind of like a dying a unicorn. There aren't that many dental offices that are fee for service. So I feel like when you come out of dental school, don't expect that.
Right.
You'll be very lucky.
I think the fee for service model, those are dentists that have built relationships with those patients, or
Right.
built a big reputation that people are willing to pay that office fee. If you're coming in as the new dentist, they're not coming there to see you to pay high dollar amounts. They're coming there to see whoever's been working there. So it's fee for
So
service. You got to watch out, because you don't know what your schedule is going to look like.
So this is actually from Dentistry Today, and it says that the fee for service, the percentage of dental offices that are fee for service are 5 to 10% only.
Yeah.
So 90% of offices accept insurance, guys. Like, that's
Yep.
something that I think you have to wrap your mind around.
Right.
Mrs. Dr. Smith over there has been in office for like 50 years. He has a
Yep.
small office, and only accepts a small amount of people.
Yep.
Right? He may not be doing a lot of the big stuff that you want to do, because the fee for that would be incredible. So we
Right.
got to look at that, right?
Yep. Yep.
All right. So we've talked about your percentage. We've talked about the type of compensation. We've talked about insurance. Let's talk about, so that's a private practice. Let's talk
Right.
about corporations, because you and I also work for corporations as a general dentist too. So let's talk about
Right.
corporations and the difference between what we've noticed with corporations.
Okay.
Break it down the same way. So you, Kyle, graduated and you want to work for a corporation, and there's the big ones, Heartland, Aspen, Pacific, right?
Right.
And then
Yep.
there are other ones that within there that kind of follow the same model, right?
Right.
And corporation is just that. It's a corporation. It's not a family. It's a business. It
Yep.
wants for you. It basically never wants to lose, right? It's like
Right.
going gambling. The house will always win, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand. No matter what, the house always wins, and that's
Yep.
that's what corporate is,
Yep.
right? From the fact that if you're in corporate, they take a percentage of management fee before anybody else gets paid. That's the
Yep.
first thing that I noticed. Kyle,
Yep.
tell me if I'm wrong.
No,
So
you're
again,
right.
the house always wins.
Yeah,
From
absolutely.
you made $100. The house is getting 9, 10, 11% off that $100 before you even see a dime.
Yep.
That's something that people don't talk about, right? Let's talk about negotiating percentage. How does that work?
It doesn't. My experience with corporate, whenever
Yeah,
because I tried to negotiate my contract, they don't negotiate on your contract. Whatever
right.
that base contract is, they don't care. They're not going to negotiate on it. So I believe Heartland at the time was 25%. They gave a guaranteed salary, which they will negotiate on whatever your guaranteed base salary was,
Yeah.
depending on what the need is for the area. So if you're going into a high demand area where they can fill it, with 10 people tomorrow, then your base salary is going to be pretty low. If you want to go to an office that they've been having a hard time finding a dentist, they might offer you, higher base salary. They might offer you a sign-on bonus. They might offer you moving expenses. They might offer you
I've heard
tuition
payment.
reimbursement. Right.
Right.
So that one is all on where you're willing to go to work. So if you don't care where you end up, you can contact the recruiter and they'll just tell them, I want to go where I'll make the most amount of money, where the biggest sign-on bonus is, and they'll point you in that direction because they just need a doctor in that building.
Right. And a little bit of a correction. So they have a range when it comes to percentage, from what I remember. And I'll speak for like Pacific or whatever, right?
Okay.
And other one, they have a range. So they'll say, well, the lowest will pay you percentages like 25. You'll say, right? And then there's the next tiers, 27, and then 30 maybe, right? And again, these numbers are not specific to just Pacific, or they're not specific to corporate, but they have a range. So depending on how much experience you have, again, they might give you a higher percentage, but they're not going to go over, their set range that they have.
Right.
So you're right on that sense, right? And then, like you said, the guarantee. I personally believe that every dental associate should get the highest guaranteed possible. Don't let them fool you with all these bells and whistles. Well, if you make this, you'll get this, and you have a potential to make this. Like, that's all just smoke to me. That's like blowing smoke up you know what. Like that's all. Don't go for that. That's like, if because don't forget, every time you hit a goal, the goalpost gets moved back the next time. So it's not like you're hitting the same goalpost. No, it's like, oh, well, you hit that number. Okay, well, cool. Let's go ahead and give you an additional range, to the point where like it becomes almost impossible to reach.
Right.
Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. You're right. So with corporate, the way they tried to do that same thing to me, where I wanted the highest base salary possible, and they come back and say, well, if you take a lower base salary, you'll get to bonus faster, and then you'll make more money in the long run. And I said, no, I can still bonus if I have a base salary, but I'm guaranteed this money, where if I accept a lower one, I'm not guaranteed anything. So for corporate offices, I would try to get the highest base salary, because I like corporate dentistry. I think it has a place, and
I do too.
They have other perks along with it, that continuing education, travel to CE, paid time off, health insurance, vacations, that a lot of private offices can't offer or don't offer. So there's
what, Kyle, I want people to listen to that. What you just said is actually the biggest difference I've noticed. Is if private practices wants to compete with corporate, they have to start thinking as a corporate, right?
Right.
How do I make sure that my overhead is reduced? But then how do I give incentives for people to want to work for me?
Right.
And that's what you just said right there, right?
Yep.
You get vacation, you get insurance. Like, who wouldn't want insurance, especially with all the craziness that's going on now?
Yep.
Who wouldn't want vacation? Those are the kind of things that I think make corporate more attractive, and why they're able to go to demo schools and stuff and recruit so well, because they give you all these perks that private practice just doesn't seem to get their mind wrapped around yet.
Right. So you might get a lower percentage in corporate, but you're getting all of those extra benefits on top of it. If none of that stuff, right, if it matters to you. In private practice, you can get a little bit higher percentage on your pay, but you might not get some of those extra fringe benefits.
Right. I will tell you, and this is just speaking from my own personal experience, the workload for corporate is intense. No. You don't come out and do an hour filling. Like there's no hour occlusal filling, and you can just sit
Yeah.
there and relax and high five people. You're seeing multiple people, and that's actually transitioning to private practice, from what I hear. But it's really intense. Like they hit you and they load your schedule because to them you're basically trying to make as much money for the office, aka for them, as possible. So you're not coming in here thinking, okay, I'm going to get a base salary that's high and they're not going to work you to death. That's not possible. Like, don't think that's going to work. And I
No.
honestly believe that people are always um, naive to that. That's why I don't think people stay in corporate for long.
Yeah. Well, and if it's Aspen builds their own offices, but Heartland, some of their offices are new builds, ground up builds. Others are went out and bought an existing practice and incorporated it into Heartland. Uh, if that owner doc is still there, that owner doc needs to maintain a certain level of production for them to get their full selling price over the next couple of years. So if you're going into that office with the hopes of eventually replacing that owner doc, you still might not be getting a whole lot of patients in your schedule if that owner doc is wanting to see everybody so he can maintain what he needs to so he can get his full selling price out of that office. One thing we didn't cover for private practice that we did, corporate didn't really, I didn't think it came up in corporate, but lab fees. Who pays lab fees and when do lab fees come out?
Yes, let's talk about that because I don't believe in corporate. You have to worry about lab fees, but they tell you where to send your labs, right?
Right.
Because they negotiate with labs, they negotiate with materials. So that's something that they're very good at because they have a lot of offices, so they have negotiating power. While a dental office does not, right? So a corporate office might say, "Hey, do everything in house, or send it to this specific lab that we know we'll get a low fee for."
Right.
You know, and I'm not I'm not generalizing because there are corporates that don't do that. So we got to kind of make sure that we can say that. But most of the time, they've negotiated for you to go to these labs because it's lower fee.
Correct.
Right.
With private practice, you might get 35% of production, but then they might want you to pay half your own lab bill.
Right.
Does that lab bill come out? Say your lab bill is $1,000. Does that come out of total product or total collections before your 35%, or does it come out after your 35%? That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm just saying these are the kind of questions that you should think about asking. Who's paying the lab fee? When does that get calculated? Do I get to choose which lab I want to send to? If I have a big case, do I want to send to the top of the line dental lab, or are you going to force me to send to labs that you already have contracts with?
Right. So I think lab and autonomy is big. I think that's what we're basically saying. Do you have the autonomy to do whatever you want to do? Send your cases to whoever, because labs do make a difference, right? You could send it to a neighborhood lab who didn't really actually take the technicians through a rigorous course, but instead found them off working at like Sears or Walmart. And it's like, hey, you look like you're good with your hands. Come and do these dentures, and I'll just teach you this denture. No, I mean, I'm being honest. Like, if you go overseas, they actually have graduate programs for lab techs, ceramists, right? In the U.S., I don't know if we have that anymore, right?
Well, and with everything going digital, there's a lot of times, depending on the lab that you send to, the person designing or making your crown is, he's computer tech. He knows CAD CAM. He knows that stuff. He doesn't know anything about dentistry. So you don't know what kind of product you're getting back because it wasn't designed with somebody that knows anything about dentistry.
That's it. So that's another. Okay, here's another thing too. Technology. I think a lot of new grads get excited when they're like, "Oh my God, we have lasers. We have CEREC in the office. We have CBCT in the office." Remember, those are cost. Yeah. So if you're going into an office that has that, you have to pay it off. I know if you go back to listen to one of the episodes with Dr. Morris, a good friend of mine, we talked about lasers, and Kyle
Yep.
was a shit starter. And I basically said, in the end, you basically do what you need to pay off, right? So if
Right.
I have this $100,000 laser, I got to do as many laser cases as possible to pay off.
Right.
So that person might say, we have CEREC here. We're going to do a lot of CEREC stuff, but hey, I want to send it to the lab because it's an aesthetic case. No, you can do it here in office.
Right. Right.
So that's something that you guys got to think about too, is the
Yep.
limitation, because you have fancy equipment,
Right.
right? So we got to look and say, is having the fancy equipment worth the limitations in order to pay these fancy equipments off?
Right. And let's talk about implants, because that's something you're well versed in.
Right.
When it comes to being able to do implants,
Yes.
who's paying for that implant? Are you getting 35% of that implant fee, or is that the cost of that implant to buy that implant? Is that coming out first?
Right.
Are you able to choose the type of implants that you want to do? Are you getting some, knockoff implant that's what the office uses, that's what you're going to place? Or do you have the autonomy to say, no, I want Zimmer, I want Nobel, I want Straumann, something like that? Because that matters.
Yep. And also negotiation. Again,
Right.
corporate can negotiate for the fees of the implant. So they may be paying like $200 for an implant from Nobel, for example, or Zimmer, whoever. And a private practice might be paying $400 for that same implant.
Right.
You see? So again, these are kind of things you got to kind of ask and say, okay, how much do you pay for implant? Because I really love to do implants. So how much are you paying for it? And then you have to kind of compare and contrast and say, what's worth it, right? So you may be getting a higher percentage, don't forget.
Yep.
But every time you have to do something that does not involve just you and the patient, there's cost that's associated with that.
Right.
And those are the kind of discussions we need to have with new graduates. It's a business.
Yep.
Dentists pretend that it's not a business, but it's a business. I promise you.
Yep.
If you're good, you try to limit your cost, your overhead.
Right. Yep.
If you're an idiot, you basically say, I'm going to do everything in the world. And then you go home and you're broke. You have $1 million practice and you make 900,000. So guess what? That, it cost you $1.1 million to actually keep this office running. You are losing money.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to last that long.
Yeah.
The failure rate for dental offices is like what, Kyle? Like 2%?
Yes. Super
Less
low.
than that. It's like really low. But that 2% is a bunch of idiots that to basically outspend and don't think about numbers.
Yeah.
So I want you as associates, please think about what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Right? I know you don't want to think about that because mom and dad are so proud of you. You graduated. They're wow. Look at the doctor. That wears off after about 5 minutes because you look at your student loan and you don't think doctor, you think broke. You know, and then you have to think logically, guys. You have to think and say, okay, what am I getting myself into? How can I go ahead and utilize? And I always say, I don't care what environment you're in, use that office for as much knowledge as possible. If you're in a private practice, figure out how he or she runs that office.
Yes.
If you're in corporate, figure out how they're still able to, keep growing at the rate that they're growing. People sit there and say, oh, I hate this, I hate that. Well, guess what? You haven't done anything. So how could you possibly hate something you don't understand?
Yep.
Understand it, then hate it. That's what I do. I understand and I can hate, I've been through the Aspens. I've been through Pacific. I've been through, you've done Heartland. You know what I mean? I've done other corporations and I'm like, yep, I hate it now. You know? But I've also done other corporations and been like, yo, this is a great model.
Yep.
I just need to make it work for me.
Right.
That's the key, guys. You don't just sit there and go, oh, well, my friend is in private practice and, they get to do implants all the time and I don't get to do implants. Okay, well, figure out how you can do that in the environment you're in.
Right. Yep.
And then ask questions to your friend. Hey, how are you able to do this? And how much you make it?
Yep.
That's another thing. We talk about all the great stuff we're doing when we come out, but you don't realize there's costs associated with it, right?
Well, and if it is something that you want to start doing, say the office refers out all of their root canals, and you want to come in and start doing the root canals, but there's some initial startup costs, whether it's
Yes.
electric hand pieces, there's dual calamus, gutta percha units, or
Right.
the
Or just the
investment in
system.
files, the
Yes.
systems. Put together a proposal. Say, this is how much this is going to cost.
Mhm.
This is what we expect to make with, these different insurance companies. These are the income that's going to come out of this.
Yes.
This is how many procedures that I need to do for you, the business owner, to pay this off and then become profitable.
Right.
So once you
Right.
present that information as a business proposal saying, look, after 20 cases, this thing's paid off and it's more money in your pocket. At that point, it's a business decision. Say, yes, absolutely. I have no problem investing in that.
Right. Another thing that I actually learned a long time ago is everything is negotiable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine if you want to come into an office, and I keep using implants because I do implants, right? So I haven't done a root canal, God knows, like 10 years, so I'm not going to talk about that. But if you want to do an implant, right? You buy the implant motor, you buy implants, you buy the handpiece, you buy everything that goes along with it, bone, membrane, everything, right? You calculate and say, okay, this company is willing to give me all this because new grads, by the way, new grads, you get hell of a discount.
Oh yeah.
I would
huge.
use you new grads every day. Every year I want to use a new grad.
Absolutely.
I will pay you if you buy this for me. Remember that. And that's another thing, guys. If you go into an office, they may be using you to basically pay for stuff because they know that new grad discount is incredible. So remember that.
Yeah.
Another negotiating tactic you can use. Hey, my new grad fees are low. So this is what I'm going to do to basically get this implemented in the office, right?
Yep.
So what you can do is tell the office, hey, this company wants to give everything together is going to be 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
I want you guys to pay the 10,000 and then take 1,000 out of my paycheck. I don't know, every month, every 2 months, or whatever it may be, until I pay that $10,000 back. But then at the end of that, all that stuff is mine.
Right. Yep.
That's another thing you can do, right?
Yeah.
So they hit the cost. You're making the money for them because remember they get a percentage of whatever you do, and then you basically get that. You basically pay it off like a loan.
Yep.
You get that back. So that's a negotiation without the interest rate.
Yeah.
So that's something that you could actually think of new grads. You know what I mean? And I hate calling them new grads. It sounds very, like condescending, but it is new grad. Like get your act together, it's new grad. Like I wish I had this. I wish I had somebody talking to me. I when we talk like this, it does remind us how old we are, Kyle. Because every time, like if I was back when I was your age, you know what I mean? Like we've learned so much. We've learned so much that like it's just amazing to me what we could have done if we had the knowledge that we have now.
Yeah. Yep. But that all that knowledge that we have came with a lot of mistakes along the way.
Yes.
And you're I'll say it, new grad, since Walter doesn't like to use the term. As new grads, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And just be humble, be honest, be apologize to the patient. Look, I gave it my best shot. This is what happened. They're going to be, they might be a little upset initially, but don't hide things from your patients. That's when lawsuits happen.
Yes.
Mistakes happen. We're all human, and you learn from it. You move on. And as a lot of dentists say, it's the practice of dentistry. It's not, you're not coming out of school knowing everything. And the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know what you're doing.
Right. It's funny. This past Friday, man, it was a tough week. I was irritated with almost everybody. My assistants and the officers and everything. It was a very tough week. And I had my last patient on Friday. Really, amazing person. When I say truly amazing person, she's a second grade teacher. Incredible personality, always happy. I'm like, why are you happy? I'm about to inject you with a needle. That's okay. At least I won't feel pain. I was like, yeah, you're right, technically, But incredible person. And I remember I went in there. We took the x-ray. We're about to do uncovering. Mm-hmm. It's like the last stage before you get your impression and your crown. And I look and I'm like, man, there's bone lost around the implant.
Yeah.
right? And it's one of those things where, like, to this day, man, like I don't have many of those, but when I do, I'm just like, your heart just sinks, and
Yep.
you're like, oh, like you're so close, and this happened, right? And
Yep.
I believe like she had like diabetes, and might have been a smoker or something, but no, I think she just had diabetes, and I was like, okay. So I go and I explain to her what happened, and she goes, okay, so what would you do? And I was like, if you were a family member, I would start all over again. And
Yeah.
I told her, I was like, we'll start all over again. We're not charging you for anything. I'll build this area up again, but it's going to cost time. And it
Yeah.
sucks. I hate when I have to say that to people. And I'm like, it's
Yeah.
going to cost time. Because I truly believe that time is the most valuable thing. You can't put a monetary amount on it. So I was like, and she was like, you know what? Thank you for your honesty. And for she's like, thank you for your honesty. And also thank you for taking pride in your work.
Yeah.
And that
Wow.
kind of changed my whole mindset from,
Yeah.
you know what? Me being completely honest with her didn't come back, in a negative way. It came back. She was like, okay, well, it sucks, but this, and this. And I'm not saying
Yep.
everybody's going to be like her, because I truly believe that she's like a saint. Anybody that teaches kids is a saint in my eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely.
But that's the mentality that you got to come across and say, this sucks. Have some sympathy and empathy, right? And say, this sucks. I know, but this didn't go according to plan. So how can I fix it?
Right.
And I truly believe that most people, 99% of people, understand and go, okay, crap happens. Let's go ahead and fix it.
Right.
Right.
And
instead of denying it and then making it worse.
And that's part of the informed consent that you should be going over. With all of your patients, nothing we do is 100%.
Right.
Nothing will ever be 100%.
I was covered. Right. I was covered. I make him sign. Yeah, I make him sign so much paperwork. I think they have to sign a paperwork saying that they got post-op paperwork. Yeah, I really have that. You know what I mean? But it was one of those things. I was like, it's still my patient, right?
Right.
I still want to do what I can
for
them, and it sucks, but it happens,
Yep.
And I'm not ashamed to admit to that. Like, okay, I do have failures, and so I have to fix it, and I'm able to fix it, and we're gonna get another one in there in like 4 months. I know
we don't call those failures. We call those non-healing.
Oh.
Because you can do the best work possible, but it's attached to a human body. There's nothing is guaranteed. So whenever you're new grads, when you're talking to patients, make sure you're going over, don't say to people, this implant's going to be in your mouth for the rest of your life if you go that route.
Oh my God. I hate that so much. I really, no, that really pisses me off, because I'm like, you don't use your car as much as you use your mouth.
Yeah.
But yet after 3 years, you're going to buy a new car, and that car might have cost you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and you're okay buying a new car, but you expect my implant that you use to chew on every day to last, what, 20, 30 years? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. When you're not brushing, you're not flossing,
when you're not brushing,
smoking.
You're not doing right. You're not even getting the oil changed. And you're surprised when it breaks down on you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, let me see what else, Kyle. So military, I think military is a good way to go, but financially you're going to be hit with a lower price when it comes to how much you make. There's a lot more restriction on location, right? You have to go somewhere. Like one of my closest friends, Chris Dindal, he was on the podcast. He was in Okinawa for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they sent him to Okinawa. He had a list of where he wants to be, and because he came out new grads, you're at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to the military. So you are going to go where they need you, not where you want to be. Hawaii is not in your cards. Let's be honest. That's for the veterans. Okay, so listen, new grad, get to the back and wait. So that's another thing, right? So location or lack of options for location, fees. But here's the thing: if you do the military before dental school, they usually pay for your tuition, so you come out debt free, and they give you a stipend while you're in school, which is great if you're okay with the other stuff. Right. If you go to like what is it? What do they call those reservations? Like working for the Native Americans or the health reserves and all that stuff. That's another thing. Sometimes they'll pay for your tuition again. Right. But location is limited. Fee, you won't get paid that much. Right. So that's another thing. You can also get tuition reimbursement and stuff. What else, Kyle? Is there any other route?
There's National Health Service Corps, which is
National
I think
same thing.
Basically a community health clinic. They offer tuition reimbursement, but you might not make that same salary that you would make in private practice. You're getting other benefits like tuition forgiveness, but a little bit different patient population too. So you might not be able to do the more advanced stuff that you're looking for. You might be doing
Bread and
fillings
butter.
and extractions.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, let's end here, Kyle, because I think the next episode, let's talk about what we see when it comes to new graduates that are specialists.
yes.
That's going to be the next podcast, so we'll bring that up. But this one was mainly geared towards GPs and what to expect when you graduate. So next time we're going to talk about graduates of the specialty, and I put that in quotation because we feel like we're special, but after a while you realize you're not that special. So new grad. I'm still going to use that for the next people, But Kyle, I think we're good here. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yep.
Man.
Good luck to everybody out there.
Yes, I hope we helped, man. I really do.
Yep.
I think we gave them a lot of gems that a lot of people don't tell them when they graduate.
Yep.
Yep.
A lot of stuff to think about.
Yes. Next year we'll have new grads, and then we'll stop calling you guys new grads. All right, man. Thank you, Kyle. We appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, Walter. Bye.
Later.